Okay, so this is someone experiencing problems because of what happened in their family, didn't get the job. Father was convicted of murder. Wow, this is horrible. So no one would know what happened about this murder in her family. So I'm going to basically give some hard advice. One of the things that this person is doing, and I think it's okay, is you need to realize that bad things are going to happen to you. And bad things happen to this person. They're having a hard time getting their own firm. They're also trying to get into a large firm or a bigger firm and get more experience working with other people. One of the things that I think is very important is taking responsibility for what you can and then just realizing whatever you can do. So what that means essentially is bad things are going to happen to you. You may not have gone to the best law school. You may have gotten fired. You may have had a family tragedy. You may have had all this sort of stuff happen to you. And then you may not have done as well as you could in your first job. You may have been behind on your peers and you may have not gotten the right job. But everyone has to take responsibility for what you can. And not taking responsibility is what hurts you. If you take responsibility for your role in everything, then you're going to be better. What I don't like about this question is I'm very sympathetic to what happened to this person, but at the same time, what could you have done differently to get work when all this happened? What could you have done differently to do better in your first job? What could you have done differently? And what can you do now to put this behind you and take responsibility? Lots of people have bad stuff happen to them. And again, I'm not minimizing this. I think this stuff is horrible. I think it's very sad. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination pulling this, but I think that one of the things that a lot of people do, myself included, by the way, I want to be clear that the only reason I'm able to give this answer is because I've made the same mistakes. But if you don't take responsibility for wherever you are and what's happened to you, then all you're doing is you're making other people responsible for your success or failure. Problems, and everyone has that, but what can you take responsibility for? All these sorts of things are really important. And the more you take responsibility for everything you have responsibility for, the better you can do. That's what scares me a lot of times is people just don't take responsibility for the things that could help them. And so that's what I recommend, no matter what happens to you. And again, for all I know, there's a lot of stuff that I certainly should be responsible for, but you have to be responsible because if you make others responsible for your success, meaning my parents died, that's making them responsible for success. No, they're not responsible for your success. If you make a firm that didn't give you work because it was in the news responsible, that's not making you responsible for your success. If you weren't at the same level as other people when you finally got a job, fine. Why not? Make it better. Work harder. Figure it out. That's the job. Like all these things that you have to ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? If you're not getting good grades in law school, like what do? You study hard. If you're not getting enough interviews, you apply to more places. You're not getting any interviews. Is there something wrong with your resume? Most people, it makes them more comfortable to blame others for their lack of success and their lack of advancement in the legal profession than it does for them to take responsibility. Wow. All you need to do is be responsible. Now, that may be hard advice to take. And I give advice like this all the time. People are like, oh my God, it's horrible. I don't know. But it's not. Like you have to be responsible. And so what I would suggest to everyone is to do whatever you can to take responsibility. I'm sorry to be so direct, but any type of lack of success and anything, the only way to get around it is to learn, which is what you're doing, which is extremely important. The next piece of advice is to really be responsible. I can tell you a million different ways you can be responsible, but anything that's not working for you, my advice, and it's the last thing I'll say today, is any problems that you're having, say, what can I do to be more responsible? And that's really it. The people that do well in the world and that have the most success and are the happiest are the ones that are able to be responsible. You're responsible for your performance at your job. You're responsible for your relationships. You're responsible for things that don't work out. And certainly other people contribute to it, but you have to be responsible.